If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and fight.
Tiger fans, there is 5 sleeps to go until we hit round 1 against Carlton, which is very, very exciting. But I've got a new problem for everyone to try and solve tonight, and it's in relation to the wing positions. Now, we saw against Collingwood that Dow and Trezise were probably the 2 most favourable wing players in that particular game. And in the most recent video on the club website, in the Adam Uze video, he also re-hinted at the fact of Thompson, Dow and Trezise being on the wings again. And this has caused a couple of eyebrows to be raised and some questions to be asked about are they the best 2 suited for the wings? Are there other options out there? And I thought, you know what, let's bring up the team sheet. Let's mix and match some names and see what we can come up with. So we're going to head over to the team sheet shortly and see what we can do. But before we do that, make sure if you like the Richmond stuff that you like and subscribe for more. It really helps the channel out. We've gone past 2,100, on the way to 2,200. We really love and thank you all for all the love and support you give us. But with that being said, let's jump across to the team sheet and let's have a look at some names that we can play in these wing spots and see if we can solve an issue. Okay, here's the team sheet, and I've got it as it stands right now, which is what we saw against the Collingwood game and what Uze kind of hinted at in his interview on the club website, which was Dow and Trezise on the wings. Now, I've got a raft of other names down the bottom here that we can swap in and out, but let's speak about the 2 that we've got there first. Now, Trezise, I don't really have a particular issue with him having a run on the wing. I thought he played a really good second quarter against Collingwood. He was kind of a bit on the wing and halfback. He got some good defensive 50 clearances as well. I think he had 3 or 4 in a row. A nice left footer, which it sounds like that Uze is very, very keen on having a left footer, right footer combination for the wings. Trezise has got good pace as well. Obviously very, very young and very inexperienced, but that's okay. We're going to have to cop the good with the bad with those types of decisions. Thompson Dow is probably the one that surprised me. Now, I don't hide away from the fact that I've been in Thompson Dow's corner all of last year with the role he had to play that was asked of him that wasn't really the role he was meant to play, but that's a story for another time. I won't go into that. But that's more as an inside midfielder, which I think is where his better football is going to be played. As a wing, I'm not so sure. I'm just not sure if he's got the pace, the physicality, and the skill set to execute what we would want to see from a wingman. So he's probably the one that's made a few eyebrows be raised. But let's look at them both and see what other combinations we can come up with. Now, the first one we've got down here, I think, look, we'll remove Dow for the moment. The first man I would like to see in this role is Sam Banks. Now, I know that Sam Banks has been played in the back line and on the wing, and I don't know where he's going to end up landing. I think we need to settle on one spot, though. I think it's important for these kids that in a year of development, they need to kind of have that continuity just to make sure they have a full understanding of what's expected week in, week out. And by chopping and changing, it doesn't really work. And we weren't able to do that last year because of injuries and a whole raft of reasons. So hopefully we can settle a few players down. But Banks has got some really good size. I feel like he's on the taller side for a running player. Does run both ways. Neat user of the ball. And I think he's someone that can make it his own. And keep in mind, guys, this is all for the now while Hugo Ralsmith is out. Because once Hugo's fit, there's a very, very strong probability he jumps straight back onto one of these wings. So I think that's almost a given in some aspects. But Banks and Trezise could be a combination that might get rolled out. Now, another name that might get rolled out, I'll remove Trezise for a brief second, is Jack Ross. Now, this is not a personal suggestion of mine because I do not believe that Ross is suited to the wing. I know some people do, and some people have named him on the wing in their sides for round 1, which is fine. Everyone's got a different view, and that I love and respect that. I suppose the reason why Ross might come into calculations is because if the starting midfield, if they're still going to persist with Taranto, Hopper, Prestia when he comes back in, I suppose, but maybe with Prestia out, Ross does lock in that more of a inside midfield role. But there might come a time where to fit Ross into the side, maybe he does have to do some work on a wing. That's probably the least favourite of my options for him. I think I would rather him, inside mid, rotating on and off the bench with someone like a Kane McAuliffe, for example, I think would work well. So I'm probably not personally too sold on the Jack Ross on the wing. I just don't think it's worked in the past, but maybe it happens out of necessity if we want to keep him in the team. The next one we'll look at, so I'm leaving Banks in because I think he's a mainstay for that spot, unless we can find someone else to to overthrow him. Seth Campbell is another name in the mix, I think, which we have seen line up on the wings in intra-club, and I think he did in the West Coast game as well. I can't remember in the Collingwood game, he may have done. Feel free to let me know in the comments below if Seth Campbell did line up on the wing at some point. But he's another one who has got pretty good pace. Skills have been okay. He did have a couple of fumbles against the Pies, but we can't hold it against the kids. So he would be another one that will be in contention. However, I kind of feel like that half forward might be a more prime role for him. But I have always had the view that I would like to see Seth Campbell rolling through the midfield at different stages as well. And this just might be an extension of that. Yeah. And like I said, this is all just makeshift until Hugo comes back in. But I can definitely see a world in which Seth Campbell does push up to the wing for various parts of quarters to give a chop out at some point. And I don't think he would be too out of place in doing so. But again, you don't want to change it up too much and create, inconsistency between where all the players are playing, I guess. But Campbell could do the role. Next name on the list, we'll chuck Campbell down here for the moment. Tom Brown. Tom Brown's a really, really interesting one. Obviously, he did a lot of work at halfback, and it seems like that he's played at halfback in a lot of these match sims and the Collingwood game and things like that. I just think that there's maybe an opportunity there to use him as a winger with his long raking boot. I mean, if he gets the ball on a traditional wings part of the ground, he's going to get it pretty deep inside 50 because he's a booming kick of the ball. And he's been working on his running a lot this preseason on the back of him not being able to use his shoulder due to the surgery. He has really improved his running capacity and power. So that plays into being able to do that wing role really, really well. Do I think the club will go down this path? Probably not. This is probably more something I wouldn't mind seeing happen because I think he can be a genuine weapon in other parts of the ground. And I think we probably have some other forms of coverage in the back line to allow him to do that. And it just comes down to where do we think we can utilise Tom Brown best. There could be arguments for him to play at half forward, might be his best spot too. I can completely see why people would say that as well. But I just hope we don't go into the Noah Bolter territory with Tom Brown by flicking him here, there and everywhere. So we've got to find somewhere that works best for the team. And I really do think the wing's a genuine option, but the coaches may not agree with me and other people may not agree with me, but he is a seriously talented player. And I just think it could help break lines, and it might allow someone like Tom Lynch to play a little bit deeper in the forward line because of how penetrating his kick is. It might have some other good effects on the team down the line. But so Tom Brown's an option, I feel. I don't think it's going to happen though, so I'll remove his name for the moment. Camden McIntosh, the old tried and tested. I know Camden McIntosh divides people. I think number one, I'm pretty confident he's going to play a lot of games this year. Whether people like that or not, everyone's going to have their own view, which is fine. I reckon he's going to play largely because he's one of the more experienced players on our list, and we are going to be very desperate for experienced players out there. We know what we get with Camden in this wing role. Works his ass off. His selflessness is huge. Like, he's prepared to just guard the ground, make sure the switch kicks don't get out from the opposition. And I feel like that discipline part of the game is maybe something these other young kids you see on the screen won't be able to do. Just because it's a really difficult mindset, I feel, for an AFL player to sacrifice their own game to that extent is what Camden does to help set up the ground for us. Like, if you go back and watch our success from 2017, 19, 20 and all that, he was so vital in the way we played the game. Not through possessions, not through goals, just simply because of the way he guarded that ground and didn't allow teams to come out the other side with ease. So if these young kids can't do that, then Camden could very well get the nod. Now, Uze on his video did say that Camden McIntosh has obviously played a bit of inside mid this off-season, but he also said you can quite easily flick his name back to the wing and you know exactly what you're going to get with him. So do not be surprised if we see Camden McIntosh line up on the wing for large chunks of the season, because, yeah, we know what we're going to get. And I know that will divide people, but until one of these youngsters can fulfill that role correctly, not just playing him there for the sake of it, but making sure the team element works and is there, or they're showing at least a good understanding of it, I don't think there could be a full-time viable option to replace him until that happens. But I think he'll be in the mix, absolutely in the mix. And the final player that is going to be well and truly, well, I shouldn't say well and truly in the mix, because this is more of my personal hope, maybe above everything else. I still really think that Luke Traynor could be a good wingman. Now, I know we drafted him as an intercept defender, and I know when he came on the ground against Collingwood, he took some nice intercept marks, and he had the 12 or 13 disposals at 92%. Looked $1 million, loved him, and I'm so hoping he makes his debut in round 1. But then you watch like the match sim video that come out from the club, and you see him like bursting through the center of the ground, having a long range shot for goal from 50 meters out and nailing it. Now that's a pretty appealing thing to have as well. And I know you can do that from halfback, but I feel like that it's probably easier for him to try and do that from the wing. You don't get hurt as much if it doesn't work. And I think the only reason why I think Traynor could work on the wing is because I think we've got enough sort of coverage in those spots in defence. Like you're going to have Tom Brown's going to be back there doing a similar type of role. Jaden Short's going to be back there doing a similar type of halfback role. Floston, Broad, Bolter when he's back, Miller, Kazitsky, there's Blight. Even Campbell Gray has been doing some good intercept marking. And Josh Gibcus when he comes back as well. So there's quite a few names that are going to be back there doing that role. And you just wouldn't want that to be the reason why Luke Traynor struggles to get a game, just because of the position he plays in. And that's why I think maybe it's worth being a bit more creative and using him in a wing. And I think it's worth noting that he did play on the wing in his junior years as well. So it's not unfamiliar for him. Coaches have tried him on all 3 lines. And he's just a great player for his age. Exceptional football skills. And it's his footy IQ, like it's his actual decision making that makes a big difference. Now, the only issue I can obviously see with Luke Traynor being on the wing, he's probably a bit physically undersized in terms of being strong in the contest and things like that, which is something that someone like McIntosh does really well. His ability to dive on the ball, halve a contest, lock it in, whatever he's got to do is really paramount and really, really good. So that might be a reason why Traynor may not work, but from an athletic capability perspective, from a skill perspective, and I think from a footy IQ perspective, he would tick quite a few boxes in that part of the ground. But I'm honestly probably more also trying to find a way to fit him into the side on a more regular basis. So I don't deny there's probably a little bit of skewed vision there, but I do think that he could really play a role for us on the wing. So anyway, they are the names that I have in the mix for the wing spot. Like I said, Hugo Ralsmith will come back in and walk straight onto one of those wings. Then it comes down to what we do on the other side. And I think for the moment, Sam Banks is probably going to lead that race in that area. But for these first few weeks while Hugo's not there, it's going to be interesting to see which way we go. And like I said, Uze's hinted at Dow and Trezise. I think there might be some other options on the table that we could see during the game. Whether they're better or not, I'm not sure. But I just feel like someone like a Campbell or a Brown or a Traynor, even as young as they are, I feel like they might give us a better output on the wing than what Thompson Dow would. I just don't think that's his natural spot to play footy. He's more of an inside mid, win ball, get it out, and move on to the next contest. And that's just his strength. So let us know what you think in the comments below, guys. Who would you put on the wings? What's your combination? What does the best mix-up look like? And it's going to be fascinating to see what we go with for round 1. So until next time, I'll catch you for the next Tiger video. And we've got heaps of shows coming up next week as well, guys. Live shows, I think, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So make sure you're keeping an eye on YouTube. Check it out. And I'll see you for the next Tiger video.